Today we're going to look at 5 music production workflow tips. Hey guys, so just a quick one this week, going to break from the format a bit because I got an email from someone a few days ago asking about workflow and how to get music done. And Michael asked, he said, the hardest thing for me is keeping the vision and the passion when I've come up with an idea of a track from the start to the finish. He doesn't know how to do it. And I'm going to refer to my notes when I'm doing this, so bear with me. So yeah, this is a very common problem. It still happens to me. And the best way I've found to overcome this is, if possible, get the idea down in a 4-hour to 8-hour session. Basically get the main bulk of the tune done as quickly as possible and in one session, because if you try and break it up by a few days, then you can find you've often lost that vision that you had initially that was in your mind or in your heart or wherever it came from. So it's important to get that idea down in one session. Now, obviously, that's not always possible, and inspiration comes at random times. You know, we could be in bed about to go to sleep, we could be on the train, whatever, and we'll have an idea. So I've got a few tips on how to capture that inspiration and then use it later on in a proper production session. So let's quickly go through these tips. Okay, here we go. So the first is, if possible, when inspiration strikes, then get it down quickly. Now what I use is the voice app on my iPhone, and I just hum or sing a few bars. It doesn't matter if it sounds rubbish, just as long as you know what it is. Another option is just to get into your DAW, in Ableton, FL Studio, whatever, and just write down 4 or 8 bars with simple sounds as quickly as possible. You know, this is something that should take between about 1 and 15 minutes when you don't have any more time to do production. But the main thing is, get the idea down and don't stress about not being able to continue with it, because if you already know that you've only got a couple of minutes, don't start stressing your head about how you're going to get this tune finished. Just get the idea down and then forget about it. And that brings us to the next stage, which is I like to split my production times into 2 main sessions actually. And Il Gates actually had a really nice way of putting this. He puts them as night sessions and day sessions. And in the night sessions, this is where you do stuff like organize your sample bank, program some patches for your synths, try some routing out in your DAW, and basically stuff like that, the administration, if you will. And then that makes it so much quicker and easier to get your ideas down when you know where the sounds are, when you know what's going to work with what, and you can just quickly drag and drop and get your ideas down in a few minutes. It also makes the production sessions, when you are actually writing the tunes, much smoother, because you know where all the sounds are, they're all properly labeled in their folders. So having these 2 different kinds of sessions is a great idea. Okay, so you've got a folder full of all these 4 and 8 bar loops that you've collected over years, and you want to use some of them. Now what I do is, in one of the prep sessions or the night sessions, I listen through some of these loops or some of these ideas, and then I just label the ones I really like that still speak to me. I just give them like a color tag in my Mac Finder, or just rename them something like yes or this is great. And then when you go into a proper production session and you're lacking inspiration, which unless you're very lucky it's going to be most of the time, because inspiration doesn't necessarily come when you've got your production session booked in. So listen through these ideas that you've marked as really good, and then pick one that still speaks to you, and then concentrate on that. Now you can then spend the next 4 to 8 hours in your production session bulking that out to a full tune, and you want to get that as finished as you can. Now, a tool that can help you bulk these ideas out when you're in your main production session is my Ultimate EDM Speed Writing Cheat Sheet. You may already have it, but if you haven't, you can grab it below this video. It's okay to leave the mixing for a couple of days because you're going to have fresh ears anyway, so actually that's quite a good idea. But you need to get all the sound design, all of the main creative, the automation, the arrangement, get that all down in this one production session. And the last tip is to focus on one track at a time. Now, this isn't always possible. For instance, if I'm collaborating with another producer and I'm waiting to get the parts back from him or her, or I get contacted by a label because they want some mixing or mastering done urgently for release, yeah, sometimes I have to put one project aside for a little bit and then work on something more important. but most of the time I can just focus on one track at a time, even if it takes a couple of production sessions before I move on to another project. And that's it guys, I hope this helps. This is how I work. I know this is how a lot of other producers work. Some people have different workflows, but this works for me. So let me know what you think in the comments below, if you've got any other suggestions for workflow that's going to help the community. And until next time, cheers and happy producing. If you liked this video and found it useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.